Is your mother there, Ishwara? No. Okay, let me just make a call. We've got some of our congregation members of the temple. I just have to make sure that's where I just came from. Just give me 1 second. Haribo Gopi.
Please accept my blessings.
Accept my blessings. Let me just put myself on mute. Okay, Ishwara, I'm having Gopi take care of them, so don't worry. So we have some of our congregation members that came to the temple at the last minute without my knowing it, so I have to really be a good host. And I have to be online simultaneously, and I am only a Jiva soul. So being only a Jiva soul means I can only be in one place at one time, although, I'd like to expand myself in many different directions. But it's not going to be possible in this lifetime. So, all right, so on that happy note, we're going to start class. Okay, let's chant a little bit. Life is interesting. Okay. I have to send a note out to everybody that I'm online. Okay. Jayo Ramanda Madhava Jaya Kundya Vihari Jaya Randa Madhava Jaya Kundya Vihari Gopijana Palava Jaya Giri Varudari Giri Varudari Vijana Madhava Giri Varudari Giri Varudari Yasoda Panachari Nayo Kunyaviyari Nayo Hari Raya Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paracharya, all through 10 hours, it's Shima, it's divine grace. Abhaya Chanana, Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Param Sai Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagadath Swami Ki Jai, Munamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Budle Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyabadi Bashacha Deja Tarini. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shaganan Shana Shulkaya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigadavena Maha. So, we are reading. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torch light of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So tonight we are reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, the 13th chapter, beginning with text 114, 13th chapter of Madhya Lila, beginning with text 114. So we are so fortunate to be able to read this book, and we are reading about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic dancing and the dancing of his associates and the chanting, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interactions with his devotees and interactions with Lord Jagannath. As we mentioned before, Lord Jagannath is Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya is also Krishna, but Lord Chaitanya is in a different mood than Krishna is in. He's in the mood of Radharani, so when he's pulling the cart of Lord Jagannath or dancing in front of Lord Jagannath, he is feeling like he wants to pull Krishna back to Vrindavan, feeling separation from Krishna. So Krishna is feeling separation from Krishna when Krishna is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Okay, very interesting interaction between Krishna and Krishna. Krishna in one mood and Krishna in another mood. Okay, so we will go to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta now. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, text 114. All right. Hey Duya Chai Sarve Gaya Damodara Anande Madhura Nritya Karena Ishvara. When this refrain was loudly sung by Swarup Damodar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began rhythmically dancing in transcendental bliss. Okay, let's hear what the refrain was. That is, now I have gained the Lord of my life, in the absence of whom I was being burned by Cupid and was withering away. Of course, those are Radharani's words, that now she is seeing Krishna, and Jagannath Puri, or the Rath Yatra, represents her seeing Krishna at Kurukshetra during the time of an eclipse. And she is seeing Krishna after like 100 years and saying, wow, now I've seen him again. But the interesting thing about Srimati Radharani and the wives of Krishna and Krishna is that they never get old. I mean, the interesting thing about us ourselves is we don't get old either. But the body gets old. And the soul remains what? Ever youthful. Like Krishna's soul, Krishna's body are exactly the same, not different. And Krishna is described as Nava Yovanam, eternal youth. New youth, actually, Nava Yovanam. Whereas our bodies are always disintegrating. Oh, Krishna, don't tell me about it. So anyway, when Krishna met Radharani after about 100 years at Kurukshetra, this is of course before the war at Kurukshetra, then they both were still young. When Krishna was speaking to Rukmini when she was a grandmother, she looked like 16 years old, and that's the advantage of being a spiritual body, rather than using the expression having a spiritual body, because when you have something, sometimes that means you can also give it up. Like Chaktua Deham Purna Janma Naiti Mamesti Surjana. We can Chaktwa, we can give up Deham, this body, and we can accept another body. Chaktua Deham Purna Janma. And then in another life, in a Purna Janma, and again a birth, we take another body. And another body, and another body. Whereas when you are situated spiritually, you are in your spiritual body, which you don't give up. Of course, some great pure devotees who have who are their spiritual, realize their spiritual bodies. Actually, everybody's their spiritual body. They voluntarily also accept a material body in order to associate with us. Just like I may accept certain cars that are low class just to be able to go somewhere. And sometimes I accept a high class car. Sometimes I'm driving around in a very fancy car. And sometimes I'm driving around in a horrible car. So I'm just changing cars or changing bodies. Anyway, but when you are your car, when you are your body, then you know it's spiritual. When this refrain was loudly sung by Swarup Damodar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began rhythmically dancing in transcendental bliss. Dire dire Jagannatha Karena Gamada Agin Richa Kari Chalena Sachira Nandana. The car of Lord Jagannath began to move slowly while the son of Mother Shachi went ahead and danced in front. Jagannath Netradiya Savenachi Gaya Kirtaniya Saha Prabhu Pache Pache Yaya. While dancing and singing, all the devotees in front of Lord Jagannath kept their eyes on him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the end of the procession with their Sankirtan performers. Jagannathe Magna Prabhura Nayana Hridaya Shri Hasta Yuge Kare Gitera Abhinaya. His eyes and mind fully absorbed in Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to play the drama of the song with his two arms. Wow. Gora Yadipache Chale Shama Hayas Dire Gora Hage Chale Shama Chale Dire Dire. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dramatically enacting the song, he would sometimes fall behind in the procession. At such times, Lord Jagannath would come to a standstill. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again went forward, Lord Jagannath's car would slowly start again. In other words, Lord Jagannath was reciprocating with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the Lord was still, Jagannath's car, nobody could move it. When Lord Chaitanya went forward, then Lord Jagannath's car could be moved quite easily. We're going to hear some more stories about this in a second. E matakor syame donhe tela teli swarate shame re rake gora mahabali. Thus, there was a sort of competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath in seeing who would lead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Lord Jagannath wait in his car. In other words, tell you what's happening. Srimati Radharani is controlling Krishna. That's one of the transcendental qualities of Srimati Radharani. Even though Krishna is the supreme controller, he's the source of everything. Aham sarasya prabhu matak sarvam prabhartaiti matva vashantima buddha bhava samambata. Even though he's the source of everything and he's controlling everything, and he's the strongest, the most intelligent, the most famous, the most renounced, even though he was all those things, Srimati Radharani controls him by her love. And this is interesting. The perverted reflection of this in this world is that when a lady keeps her husband, let's take a legal relationship, wrapped around her little finger, and she controls him. But of course, she is controlling her husband. Why? Because he gives her what she wants. She wants, what does she want? Jewelry. She wants a kid, or 2 kids. So she gets what she wants from him. But in the spiritual world, Radharani controls Krishna to give him what he wants. It's different. Because she is concerned, she has so much love, she only wants to give him pleasure. She is the Ladini Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So her control is to give the person being controlled pleasure, which is really interesting. Now we're reading a part in the Srimad Bhagavatam that's really interesting where Krishna controls Radharani. What is that part? That's the part where Krishna is calling the gopis out for the rasa dance. And how does he call the gopis out for the rasa dance? He calls them on their mobile phone. Oh no, doesn't call them on mobile phones. He calls them out. I'm joking. He calls them with his flute. Vanamali. So he's calling them with his flute, and they just become entranced and controlled like little puppets because of Krishna's flute. And the gopis sometimes get so angry with Krishna's flute that they make plans how to steal Krishna's flute. There's an interesting story told by Srila Goswami that once upon a time they stole Krishna's flute, but then something really bad happens. When Krishna wasn't looking, Radharani just took his flute. And what happened is that Radharani's mother-in-law, Jatila, saw that she had Krishna's flute and grabbed it. And everybody was worried. We want Krishna to have his flute back. So, basically, Vrinda and Purnamasi called for this old monkey in Vrindavan, known as Caitanya, something like that, and said, you go into Jatila's house in Yavat, and you tear it apart. So this big monkey, old female monkey, goes into Radharani's mother-in-law's house, which is also Radharani's house. Anyway, because she's living with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Jatila and Kutila. And the monkey starts to tear everything apart, and Jatila has no way to defend herself against this monkey, this big monkey. So she starts throwing things, and the only thing she really has to throw at the monkey is the flute. And she throws the flute at the monkey, and the monkey shows her teeth at Jatila, like that, and takes the flute back. And they get the flute back to Krishna eventually. So that's nice. So anyway, sometimes Krishna controls the gopis. It's in the opposite position. That's described in the part of the Bhagavatam we're reading right now, that sometimes Krishna takes the position of the left-handed gopis, like Srimati Radharani, and controls them, especially when he's calling them to the rasa dance. Okay, let's read the purport. Such an interesting discussion. In his Anubhasha, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the ecstasy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows. After giving up the company of the gopis in Vrindavan, Krishna, Sri Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda, engaged in his pastimes at Dwaraka. When Krishna went to Kurukshetra with his brother and sister and others from Dwaraka, he again met the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Baba Dyuti Suholita, that is Krishna himself assuming the part of Srimati Radharani in order to understand Krishna. Lord Jagannatha Deva is Krishna, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srimati Radharani. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's leading Lord Jagannath toward the Gundicha temple corresponded to Srimati Radharani's leading Krishna toward Vrindavan. Sri Kshetra Jagannath Puri was taken as the kingdom of Dwarka and the place where Krishna enjoys supreme opulence. But he was being led by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan, the simple village where all the inhabitants are filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. So that's Vrindavan. So everything is very, very simple. Krishna, even today when you go to the villages around Vrindavan, because Vrindavan's become more like a city, but in the villages around Vrindavan, they speak about Krishna as if he's their little boy or friend. It's not that, like we speak about Krishna. He's God, the Supreme Controller, Ishvara, Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, etc. like that. And for them, Krishna's the most attractive little boy of the village. Krishna's like a village boy. It's amazing the consciousness the residents of Vrindavan have, if you've ever, or Braj have. Now, if you go into the city, sometimes you don't always see that, but if you go into the villages, it's Krishna. Everything's Krishna. And they're just like residents of the spiritual world. Shri Kshetra is a place of Aishvarya Lila, just as Vrindavan is the place of Madhurya Lila. Aishvarya means opulent pastimes. Like in Shri Kshetra, Jagannath Puri, which represents Dwarka, Lord Krishna is the king with all the kingly opulence, with his wives, and Lord Jagannath, Lord of the universe, not the controller of the universe. And Vrindavan is a place of Madhurya. Madhurya means like sweetness, pastimes. Lila means pastimes. So it's so sweet. It's like condensed condensed milk or sugar, super sugar, like rock candy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when I was with Prabhupada after the evening darshans in India, he would give us some little pieces of rock candy to eat as remnants. A lot of nice memories about that. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's following at the rear of the Rath indicated that Lord Jagannath Krishna was forgetting the inhabitants of Vrindavana. In other words, when Lord Chaitanya went to the rear of the cart, then that meant that Lord Jagannath would proceed without him, and then he would forget the residents of Vrindavan. Actually, he never forgot. Although Krishna neglected the inhabitants of Vrindavan, he could not forget them, which is what I just said. But he acted sometimes as if he was forgetting them, just to arouse in them either their anger or intense hankering. So Krishna leaving Vrindavan, although it appears to be extremely cruel, it was cruel, although it appears to be extremely cruel, was to awaken in the residents of Vrindavan the ultimate in intensity in their love for him. And that's called Vipra Lamba Seva. Thus, in his opulent Rath Yatra, he was returning to Vrindavan, and the role of Srimati Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was examining whether the Lord still remembered the inhabitants of Vrindavan. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell behind the Ratha car, Jagannath Dev, Krishna himself understood the mind of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Jagannath sometimes fell behind the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to indicate that Srimati Radharani, he had not forgotten this. So what's being described here is the interplay. Hold on, someone's at the door. They should understand having class. I'm going to ignore it. So what they should understand is the interplay between Lord Jagannath and Srimati Radharani, and Lord Jagannath. That's it. Go. Thus Lord Jagannath would, hold on a second. Thus Lord Jagannath would stop the forward march. I got to get my mind back into that after I have to tell someone to go. So, we just get back into the mood of Caitanya Caritamrta. In this way, Lord Jagannath agreed that without the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, he could not feel satisfied. So this is the exchange between Krishna in one form and Krishna in another form. Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani and Krishna in the mood of Jagannath, the Lord of the universe. And Jagannath is being dragged back to Vrindavan by Srimati Radharani, who is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. While Jagannath was thus waiting, Gaurasundar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, immediately came forward to Krishna. At such times, Lord Jagannath would proceed ahead very slowly. These competitive exchanges were all part of the loving affair between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. In that competition between Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy for Jagannath and Jagannath's ecstasy for Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emerged successful. Nachate, nachate, prabhura haila, bhavantara, hastatuli shloka pade, kare uchai swara. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing, his ecstasy changed. Raising his two arms, he began to recite the following verse in a loud voice. Yakumara harar saheva hiva rastaheva charitra kshapas te chon milita malati surabhya prauruda kadambani laha Sachaivamsi tatapi tatra suratabhya paralila vidau Reva rodasi vedasi tarutale cheta samutkantate. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover. Yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire. So, of course, let's go back to this verse here. That very person, so that's Radharani speaking, of course, and she's not thinking of enjoying Krishna in the opulent, or joining with Krishna, or giving enjoyment to Krishna in an opulent situation. She is thinking of giving enjoyment to Krishna where Krishna enjoys the most, which is in the Raj atmosphere. That's in the bank of the Reva. Reva, I guess, is the name of the Yamuna. That is my desire. So this verse appears in the Pajavali, 386. The Pajavali is a collection of poems by Srila Rupa Goswami. E shloka mahaprabhu pade bara bara sarupa vinarta kehana janehi hara. This verse was recited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again and again, but for Swarup Damodar, no one could understand its meaning. E shlokarta purve kariyache vyakyana shlokera bavarita kari shangshepe akyana. I've already explained this verse. Now I shall simply describe it in brief. In this connection, you can see Madhya Lila, chapter 1, verses 53, 77 to 80, and 82 to 84. Purve aiche kurikshetre sabagopi gana krishnara darshana pana anandita mana. Formerly, all the gopis of Vrindavan were very pleased when they met with Krishna in the holy place Kurukshetra. Jagannatha deki prabhura se baba hutila se baba vishtahana duya goyayla. Similarly, after seeing Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awoke with the ecstasy of the gopis. Being absorbed in this ecstasy, he asked Swarup Damodar to sing the refrain. Avasheshi Radha Krishna Kari Nivedana Say to me, Sayami, Say Nava Sangama. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke thus to Lord Jagannath. You are the same Krishna, and I am the same Radharani. We are meeting again in the same way that we met in the beginning of our lives. Wow. It's very intimate exchanges. Phew. I mean, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. Tatapi amaramane hari vrindavana vrindavane udaya karao apanacharana. Although we are both the same, my mind is still attracted to Vrindavandam. I wish that you will please again appear, with your lotus feet in Vrindavana. Ihan lokaranya hatigoda ratadvane tahan pushparanya bringa pika nada shuni. In Kurukshetra there are crowds of people, elephants and horses, and also the rattling of chariots. But in Vrindavan there are flower gardens, and the humming of the bees and chirping of the birds can be heard. So this is the difference between a city environment, where everything is very formal, and then the country. Like Prabhupada would often say, that the city is made by man, and the country is made by God. Of course, in Krishna's city, that's made by God. And Krishna's country is also made by God. Actually, ultimately, everything is made by God. But the natural environment of those who are Brajavasis is Braj, where everything is very, very simple. And basically, no technology. Everybody is just dependent on Krishna, immersed in their intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ihan Rajavesha Sange Sabat Kritriya Gana Tahan Gopavesha Sange Murali Vadana. Here at Kurukshetra, you are dressed like a royal prince, accompanied by great warriors, but in Vrindavan you appeared just like an ordinary coward boy, accompanied only by your beautiful flute. Braje Tamara Sange Ye Sukha Ashvadana Se Sukha Samudrera Ihana Hieka Kana. Here there is not even a drop of the ocean of transcendental happiness that I enjoyed with you in Vrindavan. Amalana Puna Lila Karaha Vrindavane Tabayamara Manovancha Hayata Purane. I therefore request you to come to Vrindavan and enjoy pastimes with me. If you do so, my ambition will be fulfilled. Wow. Radharani is speaking. Bhagavate Ache Ache Radhika Vachana Purvetaha Sutra Madhya Kariyache Varnana. I've already described in brief, hold on a second, Srimati Radharani's statement from Srimad Bhagavatam. Se Baba Veshe Prabhupade Ara Shloka Se Sabha Shlokera Artha Nahi Bhuje Loka. In that ecstatic mood, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited many other verses, but people in general could not understand their meaning. Sarupa Goswami Jane Nakahe Artha Tara Shri Rupa Goswami Kaila Sehartha Prachara. The meaning of these verses was known to Swarup Damodar Goswami, but he did not reveal it. However, Rupa Goswami has broadcast the meaning. Sarupa Sange Yaharata Kare Ashvadana Nritya Madhya Se Shloka Karena Hatana. While dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to recite the following verse, which he tasted in the association of Swarup Damodar Goswami. So in other words, most of the people there did not, other than Swarup Damodar Goswami, and of course Rupa Goswami understood, most of the people there did not understand what Lord Chaitanya was talking about, because they didn't understand that Lord Chaitanya was in the mood of Srimati Radharani. This is something really esoteric. Oshchate nalina saba padaravindam yogeshvaraya riddhi vichintyam agada bodhai samsarakupa patito taranavalam geham jusham abhimanashodiyat sadanaha. The gopis spoke thus: My dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. Wow. It's a quotation from the Bhagavatam, of course. Quotation from the Bhagavatam 10:82-48. The gopis were never interested in karma yoga, jnana yoga, or dhyana yoga. They were simply interested in bhakti yoga. Unless they were forced, they never liked to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Rather, they preferred to take the lotus feet of the Lord and place them on their breasts. Sometimes they regretted that their breasts were so hard, fearing that Krishna might not be very pleased to keep his soft lotus feet there. When those lotus feet were pricked by the grains of sand in the Vrindavan pasturing ground, the gopis were pained and began to cry. The gopis wanted to keep Krishna at home always, and in this way their minds were absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Such pure Krishna consciousness can arise only in Vrindavana. Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain his own mind, which was saturated in the ecstasy of the gopis. Anyara hridayamana moramana vrindavana mani vaneka kari jani tahan tamara paradvaya karaha yadi utaya tabi tamara purna kripa mani. Speaking in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, For most people, the mind and heart are one, but because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. Wow. My mind is already Vrindavan. Since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? Wow. I would deem that your full mercy. Wow. Wow. Wow, wow. This is actually the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, not only Srimati Radharani, that their mind, Savai Mana, their mind, Kabe Hama He Rabo Sri Vrindavana, Vishaya Chariya Kabe, Shuddha Habi Mana, Kabe Hama He Rabo Sri Vrindavana, as Narottam Das Thakur prays. That when one has a purified mind, the mind manifests Vrindavan. Wow. So there's two ways of understanding. If you place your lotus feet in Krishna, if Krishna places his lotus feet in your mind, and your mind is Vrindavan, is in Vrindavan. If Krishna places his lotus feet in Vrindavan, he places his lotus feet in your mind. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing, by which the mind accepts the materially favorable things and rejects the unfavorable. This is a very important point. That when we contemplate something, we just think about it, and then we contemplate it a little bit more, you start to feel. Let me give an example in the material world. Let's say I mention your favorite food. What's your favorite food? Pakoras, gulab jamuns, pizza, whatever it is. You start to think about it, and then after a while, you feel it. When not your words, you feel, you salivate. That's feeling. And after a while, you do it, because Jayato Vishak Putsam Sango Teshu Vijayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Vijayate. Contemplating sense objects, attachment develops, where attachment comes lust, and of course, in the material world, when your lust is not fulfilled, anger. But anyway, so you do something when you meditate. So the whole point, if we want to stop doing material things, you got to stop it at the beginning before you start contemplating it. But on the other hand, when you contemplate Krishna, you feel Krishna, and you will. So you have to contemplate the right things, not simply uncontemplate the wrong things. This is the consciousness of people in general. But when one's mind does not accept and reject simply but simply becomes fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna, then one mind becomes as good as what? Vrindavana. Wherever Krishna is, there also are Srimati Radharani, the gopis, the cowherd boys, and all the other inhabitants of Vrindavan. Thus, as soon as one fixes Krishna in his mind becomes identical with Vrindavan. In other words, when one's mind is completely freed from all material desires and is engaged only in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one always lives in Vrindavan and nowhere else. Wow! That's how we could always live in Vrindavan. Pranana shunamora sachani vedana brajamara sadhana tahantamara sangama napaile narahi jivana. My dear Lord, kindly hear my true submission. My home is Vrindavan and I wish your association there. But if I do not get it, then it will be very difficult for me to keep my life. Wow. Prabhupada says, only when the mind is free from designations, those are upadis, temporary understandings of ourselves, can one desire the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind must have some occupation. If a person is to be free of material things, his mind cannot be vacant. This is exactly what I just said before. You cannot do a don't. You can't get rid of your mind, make your mind vacant. I know that sometimes there's some so-called pseudo-religious practices where you're supposed to sit and just make your mind empty. So you're sitting there, my mind is empty, my mind is empty. Yeah, I'm thinking my mind is empty. But you're thinking your mind is empty means your mind is not empty. You're just awareness. Awareness is always there. Pure awareness is not emptiness of the mind. That's the stupidity. In other words, you've got to put positive things there. There must be subject matters for thinking, feeling, willing. Unless one's mind is filled with thoughts of Krishna, feelings for Krishna, and a desire to serve Krishna, the mind will be filled with material activities. Those who have given up all material activities and have ceased thinking of them should always retain the ambition to think of Krishna. Without Krishna, one cannot live, just as a person cannot live without some enjoyment for his mind. Wow! This is so powerful what Prabhupada just said. Without Krishna, one cannot live. That's one point. That's the vision of the pure devotees. But even in the material world, a person cannot live without some enjoyment for the mind. So the enjoyment for the mind in the material world is what? Trying to enjoy different varieties, because in the material world you have this principle of chapala sukha. It means flickering happiness. The same thing that you think is giving you happiness just lasts for a very short time, and happiness in the mode of passion is like nectar in the beginning and like poison at the end. That's the problem. And so you got to keep Chapala Sukha, Bhava-tyaga. You got to keep switching from one sense object to another. You got to renounce sometimes, stop eating, fast, then you eat. Just like on Janmashtami, people have been fasting the whole day, and all of a sudden, boom, on midnight, explode with the intense desire to stuff as many things down your throat you can to enjoy. Of course, it's prasadam, I understand that. But that's the nature of the material world. And then when you're full, you can't wake up the next morning for Prabhupada's appearance day. Hare Krishna Prabhus. Okay, so on that happy note, let us end here at text 138. Today we went to 114 to 138. And then we will take some questionitos. All right. All right. Here's a question. Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisance, all glories. Prabhupada, what is the pastime of the gopis meeting Krishna in court, etc.? It was the time of the solar eclipse. And usually when there's an eclipse, according to the Vedic system, you're supposed to go to a holy place. Of course, Vrindavan is the holiest place. But in any case, there was an astrological calculation that everybody was supposed to go to court, etc. to do some pious activities, because Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra. It's a place of Dharma. Okay, so there was a calculation, and so people went from Dwarka. This is after Krishna had gone to Dwarka and had all of his wives and children and grandchildren and the whole family. So then also people came from Vrindavan because they were following the same Vedic system, so there was a special occasion. This was a holy place and a special eclipse. So they wanted to, they follow the Vedic injunctions, and not that they have to. The residents of Vrindavan don't have to follow any sort of injunctions. They're just in love with Krishna. But still, they wanted to do this because that was their pastime. And so they all met Krishna. And they heard Krishna was in Kurukshetra, so why wouldn't they go? Because previously Krishna had gone all the way to Dwarka. When he first left Vrindavan, he was in Mathura, which is pretty close to Vrindavan. You can walk there. I remember, I've been to Mathura many times, but I remember, one time I had to go to Mathura. I had to go to the hospital there because, anyway, I had an accident. And it only took 5 minutes to go to Mathura because the guy was driving so fast. It was unbelievable. So it's very close. So the gopis, but they still didn't want to go to Mathura. But even though it was close, but then after Krishna was in Mathura, he transported everybody to Dwarka to protect them from Jarasandha. So everybody was in Dwarka, which is all the way on the other side of India. Mathura Vrindavan's in the middle. Dwarka's all the way on the coast. It's a long trip. So as soon as Krishna came to Kurukshetra, which is near Delhi, and actually near Vrindavan too. Not super near Vrindavan, but it's very close compared to Dwarka. Then the gopis and everyone thought, well, we should go there for this eclipse, the solar eclipse. So they went there for the eclipse, and Krishna was there, the residents of Dwarka were there, residents of Braj were there, and they met after a long time, and that's why they went. Okay. Here's another question. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Our ISKCON temples are very opulent deity worship, and we are also expected to serve Krishna to our best capacity. Is there a danger of smothering the development of simple and sweeter and formal Braj consciousness in our seva, which is more attractive to Krishna than such opulent service? Please correct my understanding. No, there's no danger, because until I mentioned this in my Radhastami class, until we achieve a very high platform, pure devotional service, we approach Radha and Krishna in an opulent way. And not only opulent, but you want to do the best thing for them. So for us, the best thing is offering opulent stuff. Now, if you just offer some leaf or a little water, and you can offer them more. The point is, whatever you have, offer to Krishna. And then Krishna is satisfied. And if all you have is simple stuff, go ahead. But all the residents of Vrindavan had were just very simple stuff. Flowers and fruits, and the beautiful flowers too. And also pearls. They even grew pearls from trees when Krishna was present. Krishna taught them how to do that. So, yeah. So whatever you have, offer to Krishna. The point is, give Krishna as much opulence as you have. It's not that you should be enjoying opulence and then Krishna should be a pauper. What kind of nonsense is that? Just like, but if you're a pauper, then Krishna is satisfied. Just like Sanatana Goswami, when he first had the deity of Madan Mohan, he didn't have any opulence, no temple, no salt, no oven, no nothing. He was just offering to Krishna some dried bread balls that were cooked in the sun. And Krishna complained, and Sanatana Goswami said, that's all I have. I don't have time for anything else. If you want some salt, you got to get the salt yourself. And Madan Mohan arranged for the salt for himself by getting a whole salt barge that was stuck in the Yamuna River. So, yes, if that's all you have. But the point is, even with the residents of Vrindavan, whatever they had, they gave to Krishna. If they had jewels, they would give it to Krishna. And there were jeweled thrones in Vrindavan. The Ratna Singhasana, the throne with jewels on it. So it's not that in Vrindavan there were no jewels, there were no pearls, there was all sorts of opulence, natural opulence, not plastic, not automobiles. So, anyway, but when you're a pure devotee, then whatever you have, you give to Krishna. So before we become pure devotees, whatever we have, we should give to Krishna. Same thing. Same thing. And of course, the mood's different. We worship Krishna in a reverent mood. I think more than how we dress Krishna is the mood in which we dress Krishna or take care of the deities. In the Braj mood, Krishna is like one of your friends or your lover or your kid, like that. But our particular mood is we worship Krishna, as Prabhupada said, when we're in the conditioned state, in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. Means opulence. Opulence for Krishna. Now, we know as Krishna and Radha and Vrindavan, just like here in Nugaloka, we have some nice, I can show you, actually, we have some nice Braj backdrops. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let me show you some of the backdrops we had made. Let's see, it just takes a second. I think I should have them right here. Under my pictures subdirectory. I thought I had them. Under, I should show you. I should really show you. Pictures. Where are those pictures? Backdrops. Give me 1 second detail. I definitely wanted to show you. Oh, here, I think. No, that's not where I have. Anyway, somehow or other, I can't find the backdrops that I are having made. Anyway, they're there somewhere. Huh, interesting. I thought I would have them. But they're there somewhere, but I can't find them right now. Okay. Anyway, let me get a picture of the deities at least, so we can show you what the deities look like with their backdrop. That I can do, because I can just do a Facebook and then. So we have Vrindavan backdrops. I took a lot of pictures while I was in Vrindavan. And while I was in Vrindavan taking pictures, they were very high resolution pictures, so we made backdrops from those particular pictures. Oh, here's a nice picture. But that's not the one I was looking for. Hold on a second. That's today's. Yesterday we had a Vrindavan backdrop. 1 second. Here it is. Here it is. All right. Let's do a screen sharing. And you'll get a chance to see. See, that's a sunrise over Govardhan. Everybody sees that? I think you can see that. I mean, it's not the best picture, but you see the backdrop behind Krishna. So we're dressing Krishna in opulent fashion. I mean, it's like Vrindavan fashion. Krishna's playing his flute. And actually it is Vrindavan because Krishna doesn't play his flute outside of Vrindavan. Krishna only plays his flute in Vrindavan. See, there's Govardhan Hill behind Krishna, and the sun coming up in the morning, and Krishna and Radharani dancing. Very nice picture. The deities are very merciful to us here. Let's see if I can show another picture. Hold on a second. I must have another picture of the deities with a nice backdrop. He has another picture. These are just night pictures. Let's see, I'm looking for a day picture of the deities. Here's a day picture of the deities. Whoops. No. Okay. If you're interested in seeing the deities, they're always on my Facebook page. Okay. Here's another one. Caitanya Ma. Okay, some more questions. Vijay Radhika, please let me know. Why Swarup Damodar Goswami did not reveal Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood? Because this is something very intimate. That's why. The right mood, oh my God. Okay. The right mood of a devotee when pulling Ratha of Lord Jagannath is assisting the gopis. That's the right mood. Swarup Damodar Goswami revealed he did reveal the mood to Rupa Goswami and some others, and especially to Raghunath Das Goswami, who was under his tutelage. But generally not, because these sort of subject matters are very intimate. And we're privy to these by the mercy of Prabhupada. We're privy to the highest understanding. I mean, that's pretty amazing. This is something not understood by the residents of Vaikuntha, the residents of the higher planets, those in other sampradayas. But Srila Prabhupada's mercy is giving us entrance into those things, us who are not exactly born in the, I don't want to say, we were born in the darkness of ignorance, but not exactly born in the light of knowledge. So here's another one. Chitralaya. Hare Krishna, please say my own business. How is the chanting the Maha Mantra devotional service bhakti yoga, not jnana yoga? Jnana yoga means meditational yoga. So when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, we are actually asking Krishna for service. It's not simply meditation on Krishna. I explained this the other day. It's a vocative expression. Now, vocative means crying out. Oh Krishna, oh Radharani, please engage me in your service. That's what vocative is. If we would just say nominative, Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam, let's say if we were just meditating on Krishna with 4 arms as the Lord of the universe, that's a jnana yoga. But bhakti yoga includes jnana yoga, but jnana yoga doesn't necessarily include bhakti yoga, because jnana means meditation. So in bhakti yoga, it involves service. The actual definition of bhakti yoga is anyabhidashita shunyam jnana karma navritam anukul yena krishna shilanam bhakti uttamam. That means serving Krishna in such a way with a mood of devotion, love, trying to please. Jnana yoga by itself is not in that mood. You can add it to jnana yoga, make it part of jnana yoga if you like. It's not actually part of jnana yoga, but you can add it, and then it becomes bhakti yoga, and the jnana becomes part of bhakti yoga. But ultimately, just pure jnana yoga is just meditating on Krishna's God. But we're saying, Hare Krishna, oh Radharani, please engage me. Oh Krishna, please engage me in service. Oh Radha Raman, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare, please engage me in service. That's why it is not just jnana yoga. Okay, on that happy note, looks like Madhava wants to ask a quick question. What's up, Madhava?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. So I just was thinking, seeing this Lila at Jagannath Puri, is how I know Madhurya Ras is that's what Gaudiya Vaishnava preaches and practices, and it is known topmost joy.
Yeah.
And then how in Vipralambha mood it appears to an ordinary person, maybe just a painful situation. So how it can be seen and understood the same devotee experience having Madhurya Ras, very joyful and happy, and again Vipralambha is very painful. How do you understand this?
Well, Vipralambra is part of Madhurya Ras. Uh, you're, how do you understand it? Because just like we're chanting Krishna's name, Krishna is non-different from his name, and he's there. And when you're feeling intense separation from Krishna, Krishna is there. When I'm feeling intense separation from something else, let's say, what am I feeling intense separation from? My car or something like that. Let's say, I don't know what I'm feeling. I can't even think of what I'm materially feeling intense separation from. I'm not. But let's say theoretically I was experiencing it. Then I wouldn't be with that object. It would be just pain. Let me give you the example of chutney. Like Prabhupada described the chutney as something, it is so hot you can't eat it, and so sweet you can't resist. So there's simultaneous attraction and pain. And so that is the highest ecstasy, because you're connected with Krishna through that mood, just like when you chant Hare Krishna. Okay, we have to end now. It's time. We'll see everybody tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening? Will we see everybody? Yes, we will.
Thank you.
All glories to